It's movie time with John DeSando and his friends online. So everything is gonna be just fine. From the top down to the bottom. He's gonna let you know if you should stay home or if you should go. Might even yell if it's a spectacle. From San Francisco to Long Island. 'Cause nothing's better than a motion video. Listen.
Now, how were you surprised that Honora won
No,
for Best Picture?
not at all. As Academy Award shows go, this was not one of the more difficult ones to predict.
Okay.
Honora has been riding the tide of Golden Globe Awards, BAFTA, the SAG Awards, so I think it was safe to say that most people thought it was going to come down to either Honora or Conclave, one of those two.
Well, Ken, you know, I was skeptical as to whether it would. It was a great film when I saw it, but it is such a wild-ass movie, reminding me of Pretty Things.
Poor Things.
I'm sorry.
Honora is definitely this year's Poor Things. I mean, you've got a very, very bold performance by a dynamic actress, Mickey Madsen. You've got this year's lots of nudity again,
Wouldn't
just
you
like
say
Poor Things.
it's actually Mikey?
Mikey, you're right. Mikey Madsen. Like Poor Things, you have a gratuitous amount of sex and nudity. So that part of cinema has not gone away. As much as we've become prudes compared to European films, it's nice to see two very bold films in 2 years in a row taking the top spot.
Yeah, and it's pretty bold for them to be studying a sex worker.
Yeah.
But that's with a director.
What I like about that is it treats the sex worker as a person. It treats the person as a responsible human being who is in control of their life,
Yes.
in control of their actions. They are not some drug addict who's being dragged through the streets. This is a person who made a conscious decision to become a sex worker and is taking responsibility for it.
Yeah, and besides being pretty wild as a topic goes, it seemed to me that it also has some kind of an allegorical application now as to when it was created. When you consider the flap that went on at the White House recently.
Oh, yes.
Zelensky and our two major players.
Yes.
And when you think about the interaction between Russia and the United States.
Well, you've got the dominant Russian billionaire mob boss, who is the father of the boy,
Right.
who shows up, and his wife, who immediately take control of everything, and everybody's bowing down to them, sort of symbolic to some politics that are going on in America today.
Anyway, it's a pretty good film, and it's a great performance. She won Best Actress.
I was not at all, and the ceremony last night had a couple surprises. Not as many as some people might be telling you, but it was a bit more predictable. But there were two big surprises, and one of them was Mikey Madsen winning over Demi Moore.
Yeah.
If we had gone into the ceremony, if somebody had asked me an hour before the ceremony yesterday, which category is a lock? Which category would you put money on? I would have said Demi Moore, hands down, because Demi has been going through the Golden Globes, the SAGs, the BAFTAs, giving these wonderful speeches in support of the way in which actresses are treated in Hollywood, the unfair way in which their careers are cut short once they hit about 30, as opposed to men who can continue leading men up until their 70s.
What pleased me is that it looks like the Academy actually gave an award for talent.
They very much did.
And performance.
Mm-hmm.
Because Mikey's performance is far more nuanced than Demi Moore's. And the way you were describing it was perfect. Demi Moore's has an awful lot of sentiment about it, an awful lot of history about it, but
she was definitely making a statement.
Right.
That movie is making a statement, and a lot of the actresses in Hollywood were embracing that statement, as were a lot of women in the audiences.
Look at us, we're not getting through anything.
No. Well,
you are the worst and the best to have. Actually, I'd like to say that you won the prize at the Drexel Theater.
Oh, John, well, thank you.
For guessing the most
every
winners.
year that we're not supposed to promote anything, but every year the Drexel Theater has a red carpet bash in which they give out prizes, and we all get to watch the Oscars on the big screen, and you get to pick your ballot and turn the ballot in, and every year somebody is going to win a 1-year free pass to the Drexel Theater.
And who better than you?
Well,
Because I don't know about anybody else who has watched more films than you.
last year I watched 139 films.
Oh,
And I'm sure that helped a little bit. Did a little
Oh.
bit of research, and you also kind of have to have your finger on the pulse of Hollywood and what is building momentum, and that's why I went with Flow. So this and this.
Oh, here we
is
go.
the-
See, I
here
knew
we go.
you would get to
Oh yeah,
Flow
you
immediately.
knew there was no avoiding this.
Now, Flow won the best animation.
Best feature animation.
Right.
Yep.
But you were telling me months ago that you thought Flow would be a
I
contender for
did.
best picture.
I did, because the movie is just so beautiful, and I love the idea that it allows you to decide what the theme and what the movie is about. There's no narrative that's clear cut. It's a movie that you interpret. And also, animation in Oscars tends to favor the independent filmmakers. We saw that last year when Hayao Miyazaki won for The Boy and the Heron, not one of his best movies. And so I think animators are really trying to embrace independence as opposed to watching Disney or DreamWorks win every single year.
Good enough. Now, another category that always interests me is best actor. Now, we get to talk a little bit about best actor and a film that I thought was maybe the best movie of the year.
The Brutalist.
Brutalist,
The
yeah.
Brutalist, and Adrian Brody.
Right, and Adrian Brody.
Adrian Brody gave what I think is one of the best and most definitive speeches of the evening when he talked about how it had been 20 years since he won his last Academy Award, and he was concerned that he was no longer employable. And this is the heart of what really was going on last night with the Oscars. We can talk about independent individual movies, but the overall theme of the Oscars last night is that there is a wave riding through Hollywood right now, that the independent studios, the independent filmmakers are now at the forefront. They're now guiding Hollywood. The big studios are falling behind and losing money like crazy. And a good way to describe this, and I'm glad you're giving me the opportunity to say this, is the top movie, the winner, Anora, cost $10 million to make. The Brutalist cost $10 million to make. Flow cost $3 million to make. Those three movies encompassed the majority of the awards last night. Total out of pocket there, $23 million. That is less than half of the $50 million that Disney paid Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, to appear in Red One, a movie that cost $260 million and lost over $200 million.
Yeah.
So this is what is going on in Hollywood, folks, is the small independent filmmakers making these $8, $9, $10 million movies. They are the ones who are now defining what cinema is, while the studios throw away sinful amounts of money on films that do not draw in people.
Yeah, and your point is one that I'd like to make too, is that let's, in our podcast, look at films as they're now evolving in Hollywood. And I think you're onto it. I'm hoping this is a trend, because you can see there's an equivalency between almost the cost and the creativity. And the poorer people are always more creative.
And that is
than the
very,
wealthy.
very well put. I remember when Steven Spielberg was asked about making Raiders of the Lost Ark. He wanted $35 million for Raiders. They gave him 11. And he had to cut and scrape and slash that script. And he said later on, he was so happy they did that because it made him get to the essentials of that story and cut out all the dead weight. And if he had made his $35 million version, he said it would have been very pretentious.
All right, so
And this is what is so the soul of Hollywood right now, is independent film saying something. And if you remember the winner who won Best Director, Baker.
yes, John Baker.
John, yeah, his comment is cinema movies, going to the movies, don't let it become a thing of the past. Since COVID, we've lost 1,000 screens, and it's actually conservative, it's more like 1,100. And if you want your children and your grandchildren to have the same experience of seeing movies in movie theaters as a community, we've got to do everything we can to make sure that people are going back into the theaters, seeing them that way,
All right.
especially independent theaters.
Ken, I'm hoping this is worldwide. I'm hoping your spirit and our wish for more creative and less expense goes. Now, a movie that won the best international film,
I'm still here.
Here,
Mhm.
was one that both you and I, well, you saw it later than I did.
Yes.
And so it was a case where you brought me into Flow, and I brought you into I'm Still Here.
Yes, you did.
But we both admit it's a superior film, and yet it's well, as we look at all the films, it'd probably be less expensive than most of those as well. I'm
Certainly.
Still Here. And there's a film that is so classy and so much in the tradition of good Hollywood. Would you say this is a worthwhile film? I'm Still Here.
I'm Still Here is very much a worthwhile film. Anything that gets nominated for an Academy Award is deserving of an Academy Award. I've never seen a nominee that was really undeserved.
Yeah, that's a great point.
But I'm Still Here definitely was deserving of the win.
Yes.
Now, as much as I love Flo, and Flo was in that category, and I would not have been brokenhearted if Flo had won it.
Right.
I'm Still Here is telling an important story about Brazil when it fell under a totalitarian government, and how easy it was for even somebody who was a former congressman to be swept up and disappeared.
Yes, and a comment on our YouTube from a fan is that I was the only North American to say his name correctly. Rubens Paiva. Really?
Very good, John.
Yeah. So anyway, we have watchers all over the world, and apparently we did a good job with that. I did that with Audrey, and we enjoyed it very much. So there's a film that's in the spirit of what you're talking about. It's not just the U.S. It could be, but around the world, they've never had the budgets that we've had.
They don't. Other than China, China right now is where we were in 2019. They're making $200 million movies.
Yes.
And there's a Chinese movie making the rounds right now, an animated film that may break $2 billion in the worldwide box office. No film has ever done that. No film's ever earned $2 billion.
I'm looking forward to The Black Bag, which is Bong Joon-ho.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Well, no, that's Mickey 17. Mickey
Yes, that's
17.
right.
Yes, that is the science fiction film
That's right.
with Robert Pattinson of Twilight and Harry Potter fame.
Right.
And that film looks very, very good. We're getting a little ahead of ourselves though, because these are films from
That's
next year's
Mickey
Oscars.
17.
Mickey 17.
Yeah.
That comes out at the end of.
All right. So yes.
So getting
Ken,
back to the Oscars though, the heart of this Oscar is how much independent film now is dominating Hollywood, and how good that is. What a great thing that is. The big loser last night was Disney, hands down. Disney did not walk away even with the best song that they usually pick up from one of their animated movies. They didn't have any of their big budget films do well. Their one film that was in the running there was A Complete Unknown, didn't get anything.
But it's gotten some good cover. There are people who have liked this very much.
Absolutely.
And there are some who thought it was the best film. I didn't. I thought Chalamet was one of the best actors.
No, yeah.
But that wasn't going to go because Adrian Brody was superior in so many ways.
Timothy could have taken it. That was a very much question mark because of course Brody was The Brutalist did not do as well at the box office as they hoped. Of course, it's a 3.5-hour movie.
All right, but Ken, just briefly on The Brutalist. Allegedly, they had used, in fact, I think they did use AI to enhance the
Hungarian dialect.
Yes.
To make their voices sound more naturally Hungarian.
And some were saying this is why it didn't have a chance. And I say no, it didn't have a chance.
No, well, we got disproved last night.
Right.